guys, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and today we're going to discuss structuring a recovery day. So this podcast is actually the yearly mark of me starting the podcast. So this time last year I kicked off with my first one. This is episode number 52, so hopefully we'll be able to continue to add value. And first off, I want to thank you all for listening along and following me along on this. I guess it was journey to get it going, because at the start it was definitely tough to kind of pick it up and start to change my focus on what I was doing. I always worked on Instagram and that, and to be honest, I think that podcasting is my favorite thing to do, because it's a lot more open form, long form, and you can discuss things, and especially when you have guests on, it's a good bit of crack as well. So today, as I said, guys, we are going to discuss structuring a recovery day. Now, why do I want to discuss that? Because basically we're in the middle of the season right now, and a lot of people are in the middle of their sport, and what they're doing is they are training a good bit. Everyone's training hard, which is great, but a lot of people aren't recovering right, and what they're doing is they're trying to squeeze extra things into their recovery days. Okay, now you would have heard me talk about this on other podcasts. I would have discussed different ideas behind recovery, what you can do, different things that you can incorporate and what you should be looking at. And you would have heard me mention before this idea of a dial and your nervous system, if you've been following along for a while. And what I mean by that is your nervous system works on this sympathetic parasympathetic style. Okay, now if it's in a sympathetic state, it's a fight or flight state. Okay, so it's a state that your body starts to prioritize energy and using energy and energy mobilization. So different processes happen in your body, so you have more energy, so you can get away from a certain situation if you need to. Okay, now it's an excellent short-term response, but it's not something you want long-term. Okay, the opposite side then is your parasympathetic, and your parasympathetic is your rest and digest. Okay, so it's really, if I was talking about the dial, if you were turned up to 10, it'd be extreme danger, what you're trying to get out of that situation, or extreme anxiousness or panic. And if you turn it down to 0, then I guess the easiest way to describe it would be you're asleep. Okay, so that's kind of the idea behind it. We're trying to turn that dial back. A lot of people are running on a 6, 7, 8 during the day, and they never really get back to under a 5, and a 5 would be prioritizing recovery, obviously, during the day. Okay, they don't get back during the day, and they don't get back at nighttime because their sleep is disrupted as well, because they're just tuned up, turned up all the time. Okay, so I'm going to discuss what you can do to turn that dial back, and then how you should maybe structure your day. So why are they important, I suppose, is probably the best place to start. Well, a recovery day is extremely important because first it helps your body and mind recharge. Now, I always talk to clients when I'm talking to them about their body being like a battery, like the battery of your phone, where you have to let it charge back up to 100% so you can start using it again. Now, you will get away with working on your phone at 80% and 60% of that, but it's not optimal. And for the body, things will break down a lot easier. Okay, maybe it's like, you could describe it as a car not servicing your car. Okay, you can get away with it for a long time, and I have done, which is not the best thing, and I'm not advising that, but things sooner or later will start to break down. Okay, so it is important to take the time to recover, and it's important to take the time to service your car as well. All right, so that's kind of what I liken it to when I discuss it, is like charging that battery or servicing a car. Now, it does help the body and mind recharge. It also helps you adapt to the training stimulus that you've put yourself under for the last couple of weeks. Okay, and what that means is that if you're training in the gym, if you're strength training, you can't just train 6-7 days a week, because if you do, you will sooner or later break down, or you'll get serious fatigue. Okay, and the same things if you're training on the pitch, if you're training for runs, if you're training for ultra marathons, if you're training for triathlons, whatever it is, you can't just keep pushing and hoping that you will adapt, because you need that yin and yang style of a lifestyle, in terms of you need to push, but then you also need to pull back as well, and chill out and relax. Okay, so you get that adaptation to it. You get a muscular adaptation, you get neurological adaptation, you get a cardiovascular adaptation. Across the board, the body will adapt once you put it under stress. Okay, and then outside of that, you have a mindset change as well. If you're all go and all focused on one thing, that will run out, and your motivation will run low. and then you'll start to get low mood, and you'll start to get a bit more depressed, and you'll find that you just get hard to get up out of bed in the morning and find it hard to get things done. Okay, and that's just because you're drained and you're tired. And a lot of people, I guess, they work the whole year and they wait for a 2-week holiday or a 1-week holiday, and they leave it all in that. Other people, they work during the week and they wait for the weekend. But they're all basically the same thing. It's that mindset change, that refreshing yourself. What would you call it? It's like a change of focus for a small while, lets you get back into it again. Okay, and I guess another way to look at it is like, if you're studying and you're just trying to study for 8 hours in a day, you'll find it's usually like 90 minutes is what you have for intense focus. You'll find after the 90-minute mark, 2-hour mark, that you'll start to just be dozing. You'll have to keep going back over the same things again. You might be checking your phone. You might get caught on Instagram. You might get caught just dozing, looking out the window, or daydreaming. But that's because you cannot keep that focus all the time. But if you want to get it back, all you have to do is step back away from it, change your focus to something else for a small while, or just turn off your focus altogether, and then come back to it, and you'll get very, very good at doing that, and then obviously your focus will improve. So meditation is one good way of doing it, because what meditation trains you to do is to focus on one thing for a specific amount of time. It's not that you have to clear your mind. That's what a lot of people think with meditation, but it's just that you have to focus on a single point for a long time. So the breath is good, focusing on trying to not lock into any thought is very good, or any thought pattern. It could be that you're focusing on a metronome. There's lots of different things, but the focus is really, really important. And what I heard Tim Ferriss describe it before as is it's not the clearing your mind is the goal of it. It's actually catching yourself losing focus and bringing it back to it again is the kind of bicep curl of meditation. So that change of focus lets your body kind of get a chance to rejuvenate and gets it ready to go again. It's like trying to work all day and night. It's not going to work. You need to sleep at night. So when you sleep, then obviously you get better at things. Your skill acquisition improves. You can pick up new skills faster. You can learn things faster the next day. You have a lot more energy. Your mood is improved. All these things go hand in hand with that. So what do I commonly see problems with recovery days? From working with clients, I see a lot of issues with recovery days, and that people maybe don't structure them as a recovery day should be structured, and what they look at instead is trying to fit in things that they missed during the week. And that goes against everything of what I just said before about changing your focus and just taking your time. So I find that firstly, people are, I guess, fit too many things into the day. So they'll say, all right, so I'm going to go for a walk in the morning, then I'm going to go for a swim in the afternoon, and then I'm going to, let's say, go kicking ball. I might go pucking ball. Then I might go for a light jog in the evening, or I might go for, there's one thing into the next. And that's kind of goes against the idea of it. For me, I think that you should have a less structured schedule. Now, I'll talk about that as I go through it, but having a couple of things that you touch on that are going to improve it will be excellent, as opposed to trying to fit everything in, having a tight schedule and putting yourself under pressure to get things done. So that's one end of the scale. And then the other end of the scale is people just sitting down doing nothing at all, just chilling out. That's all right, and I like that idea. But not even getting up and moving and just sitting and watching Netflix all day. Now that kind of goes against it a small bit. So you do need to get up, you do need to move around, you do need to kind of enjoy yourself and get outside the house and get outside your room, especially because it's not a change of environment, and you want some bit of a change of environment as well. So what I find as well, and to focus in on different sports specifically, GA players, a lot of the time I'll see that they use recovery days to get in runs, okay, or they try to get in a gym session as well. That's another big one that I see. Try to get in a small HIIT workout, try to get in maybe kicking for too long, or pucking for too long, where they're going out for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they're not just giving themselves a chance to relax. That obviously goes against changing your focus. And then with runners, it's the same thing. I see them a lot of the time fitting in shorter runs on a recovery day, when really that should just either be brought back to a walk or just relaxing altogether, and maybe changing it to something else. Swim could be good for them. But fitting in, they're tapering off, and I like the idea you have to taper obviously, but you can't just be pushing all the time. If you're running during the week, a great way to adapt to that running is to not run for a small while. If you just keep running all the time, well then you're never really giving yourself a chance to adapt fully to that. So I find that's kind of the thing with runners, is that from runners that I've worked with anyway, is that they just push. Even though it's a low day for them, they still run and they're still doing the activity that's fatiguing them in the first place, or that has caused significant amount of fatigue to that point. And then I guess the other thing is people aren't addressing the emotional side of things, the cognitive side of things, the physical and the spiritual side of things as well. Now, the spiritual is something I have to dig into a small bit more myself. It's a small bit out of my comfort zone at the moment. I don't have a good enough understanding at the moment of it, of how to incorporate it, but I have been researching it and looking into it a small bit more, so we'll touch on that a small bit. But the emotional and the cognitive, like you get emotional fatigue, you get cognitive fatigue. So looking at how you can recharge that is really important. Everyone kind of has an idea of how to recharge the physical, and recharging the physical is like getting your active recovery in, working on mobility and movement exercises, maybe going for a nice swim, going into cool water. It could be that you're going getting maybe a nap in. There's lots of different things that you can do to recharge the physical. The cognitive and the emotional take a small bit more thinking about what you have to do. Okay, so I'll dig into these, I suppose, in the next topic. But I just want you to take note of that you need to recharge the emotional, cognitive, physical, and then the spiritual as well. When you're really taking a holistic approach to it, you need to take everything into account, obviously. So what should your recovery day consist of? Well, I think first off, keep them simple. Okay, you don't need to be just banging in a load of things, structuring a load of things, and having a really tight schedule so you're running from one thing to the next to fit it all in, because that just keeps you in that high alert state. And we're kind of trying to transition out of that, say, a small bit more to give the body a chance to, as I said, turn back that dial and come into more of a rest and digest state. So I say to people, do activities you enjoy, but that aren't very taxing on the body. Like, obviously, if you're a runner, you enjoy running, so going for a run might not be the most ideal thing, but going for a light hike might be good, where you're getting out and you're active. Going for a walk in nature, I think, is completely underestimated, and it should be part of everyone's goal. Everyone should hit each week is to get out in nature for some amount of time, where you're just out walking around, observing and sitting back and relaxing. Enjoying time with family and friends, massive one, very big one for lifting mood, making you feel a lot more secure in yourself. Obviously, that's if you get on with your family and friends. Well, I'd hope you get on with your friends at least, but making sure that you're more secure, more relaxed, you kind of have that social structure around you that you can fall back on as well, and it gives you someone to talk to, because people forget about that as well. And that is addressing the emotional side of things, is actually having someone to talk to and chat to and discuss things with. And that goes a long way in terms of long-term, or I suppose longevity, but in terms of actually taking control of your fatigue from all aspects, and not just looking at the physical, or not just looking at the cognitive. So enjoying time with family and friends shouldn't be underestimated. And it's one of the main, I've done a podcast on strategies to improve well-being, and it's one of the main ones there. So you look at that, because it will lift your mood up. It does provide some social support, and that's a huge thing with people who struggle with different conditions, that they lack social support. And having that and having a strong bond with family or with friends is a very, very good idea moving forward, in terms of it will help you recover for competition, but it'll help you recover overall and help you become, I suppose, a better person overall. You really, really optimize adaptation in that way. And I don't mean to bring it back to that all the time, but you do in ways. It does help you get a kind of a better holistic, I suppose, improvement in your life. So looking at outside that, then I think getting into the ocean is underestimated. I also think there's a lot more benefits to getting in the ocean than we know of at the moment. And I think that just getting in and getting to swim around is nice. You kind of are out and you're relaxing, and it's something it's bigger than yourself, so you're in that sense of awe a small bit as well. And you have to obviously be safe in the ocean. You can't just be out there taking the piss, but it does relax the mind and relax the body. And when in Ireland it's cold as well, it's freezing. That little cold shock it does give you a bit of a kick. Out here in Indonesia, it's not that bad, and I'm not saying that to be boasting or anything, but it's not actually that bad. It's lovely and warm. So getting out in it, you spend a bit more time in it. But I do miss the cold Atlantic Ocean as well. That's something that I wouldn't mind getting back to for a small while, just for the shock and to see if I still have the the blood for it. As they say, I've probably gotten soft blood now, being out here in the warmth all the time. But anyway, getting into the ocean is a good one. And I think another one that a lot of people enjoy, and it's funny when I look at like, let's say, top class fighters, like guys who really are able to turn it on. They're most of the time the guys that are really able to turn it off as well, because if you're able to turn it on, usually you're able to turn it off just as fast. And a lot of them enjoy fishing. I think fishing's an interesting one because it is a meditative practice, really, when you're out there and you're just kind of relaxing and chilling. And like, I'm not talking about competitive fishing or anything now. I'm talking about just sitting out in a boat. But it is relaxing. Whether you're catching them and sending them, putting them back, or whatever you're doing, catching them to eat them, I don't mind. I'm not going to judge you. But it is a nice one to kind of sit down, take a day to relax, and you can be chatting to the person beside you, or you can go out by yourself and do it. But it's definitely an underestimated one as well, and there's a lot to be gained from it. When you're kind of looking into, or I suppose actually first I want to touch on cycling is another good one. A light cycle now, not a 60-kilometer cycle, as which one of my clients told me there they did last week for a recovery thing. A light 60k cycle or a light 80k cycle. I couldn't care how light it is. That's a long cycle. It's going to take a lot out of you for a recovery day. So it should be small but shorter. And that is tapering, but it's just I need you to probably pull back a small bit more and fit that light cycle in on one of the low days of a week. Okay. But mobility and movement exercise is very good for kind of helping you relax down, helping you to kind of ease out any aches and pains. And what I always say with mobility and movement is you might feel good right after it, but really what you're doing is you're paying it forward so you feel good the next day and the next week. Okay, so a lot of the time you're not going to get the benefit right there and then, even though you will feel good after it. The benefit is really, really gained in time after that. Then I guess taking a bath is one that I enjoy. It's definitely one that I love to do. I haven't been doing it enough out here, even though I have one. I kind of made the plan that every Sunday I would do one. I followed it for about 2 weeks, but I'm going to get back into it now. So bath is a very, very good one. Float tanks, they're sensory deprivation tanks, and they're basically you sit into a tank. It's the same temperature as your body. There's no light, no sound, and it's full of Epsom salts, so you float in it. Excellent ways to help you relax. And I know some top teams are using that, like the LA Lakers, Golden State Warriors, San Francisco 49ers are using float tanks to improve performance through recovery and also through skill acquisition, because they're I guess reducing the amount of input they're taking in after a hard training session, which in turn helps them recover quicker. Now, another one I would say is like charity work. If you do, once it's not too taxing, once it's not I don't know, digging drains or something like that, but charity work in general will lift your mood, will provide definitely a source of improved well-being, and that you'll feel so much better after it. You'll feel like a better person. You'll be happier with yourself. It's not time wasted, it's time well spent. And I think that's one that a lot of people could do more of, and it's something that I have been trying to do more of since I've been out here. You do notice when you are in a place away from home that you have a lot of privileges at home, and we're very lucky with the lifestyle we live. So I think it's something that I have tried to do a bit more work out here, and it's something that I'm going to look to develop things in future, out here especially, and maybe wherever else I go. But I guess looking into the more specific ones, then the flow tank's obviously a very specific one. Meditation is a good one. I think meditation is an excellent one because it does help to calm the mind, it helps to focus the mind, and it also helps to really relax you. It helps you to manage stress a lot better. And the research shows that your amygdala, let's say your fear processing part of your brain, for people that are highly stressed, that amygdala gets very big. Because it needs to continue processing all the fearful stimulus that's coming in, and as it gets bigger, then you start to notice more scary things. But by meditating consistently, you're actually able to reduce the size of the amygdala, and help your body become better able to deal with stress, and it'll help you to get into a more relaxed state and rested state when needed. Okay, and that's why I mean you want to be able to turn it on, but you want to be able to turn it off as well, just as quick. And so they're kind of the main ones. Then what I would say outside of those main ones, like active recovery is huge, hydration is huge, getting that in the morning as opposed to the evening where you're not waking up at night. I think getting naps in is definitely underestimated. Getting a 10 to 26 minute nap in is an excellent way of recharging your battery. And I would, any of my clients that are dealing with fatigue or dealing with high stress, it's something I always suggest. Literally right before I started this podcast, about 4 minutes or 5 minutes before I started it, I was napping right up to that point. Jump straight up, come over, I had everything set up, and I just said I would jump on it. It's something that I find excellent for recharging the battery and clearing the mind. I've heard other people using, I think it was Hemingway, the writer used a technique that he would write a question down, then he'd go for a nap, he'd wake up, and he would write down whatever came to mind first. He used to do it at night as well. I know Albert Einstein did something very similar in that he slept in his chair, he held metal balls in his hand. So once he would go, and he had pots and pans underneath him, so the second he would go to sleep, or whenever he would go to sleep and his muscles relaxed down, he dropped those balls and wake him up right away again. I think that was Einstein. It could have been Edison, but I think it was Einstein. That was another good one of just keeping you right on the edge of when you're asleep. That's a very, very effective one, but you have to be careful that you don't do it too late in the day so that it affects your sleep at night. It's something that I try to do most days of the week now. I'm lucky enough that I am working from home and kind of on my own schedule as well, which helps a bit. But if you're working from home at the moment, it could be one to fit in, especially as your routine changes from the summer to kind of winter routine or autumn routine, that you want to make sure that you are addressing fatigue. Then looking outside of that, I want you to think about how you can avoid stress on your recovery days. Now, how do you do that? Well, one of the main ways is that if you're planning a recovery day on a day that you have work, it can be a small bit harder to do that. So I would try plan a recovery day on days that you're off. So maybe a Saturday and Sunday. Now that doesn't work for some people sometimes because you have to fit in your training on a Saturday or Sunday. But make sure that if you are planning a midweek recovery day and a day that you are working, that you are doing your best to fit in recovery periods throughout that day, whether it be napping, whether it be non-sleep rest, where you're just lying down with your eyes closed, whether it be just getting out for a walk in nature, or applying any of the methods that I just talked about there before to that day. But you need to do that, because if you're just using that recovery day as you're still going to work, you're still getting home in the evening and you're just sitting down and watching TV, then it's not exactly the same thing, because you have a lot of stress at work and you're locked in and you're focused at work as well. So look to fit as many of those other activities in during that day. Keep your schedule flexible enough. I said that at the start, but you wanted it because if you're time bound by a lot of things, it can add stress for some people who would be highly tuned. So I would say keep your schedule as flexible as possible, and don't have massive commitments on your recovery days. If you're really looking to make the best of it, you want to be relaxed. You want to find the next day when you wake up very comfortable. I try to fit 2 recovery days in a row. That's something that I definitely do. And I definitely recommend for all my clients who are training at a high level or are training most days of the week or a lot of days, is if you fit in 2 days of recovery in a row and you come back, then let's say if you fit Saturday and Sunday, when you come back, you are like a new person on the Monday. Now you might be a bit groggy and tired because of getting up in the morning, little change in routine, but you do feel way better. Your body feels better. You're not as tight. You're not as stiff. You're not as sore. You're not as irritable. You're not as nervous. You're not as anxious. You don't find yourself ruminating on a lot of things. There's a lot of benefits to that, because it does really, really recharge the battery. You're giving it 2 days to recharge. After a football game as well, Gaelic football, it takes about 2 days to recover, depending on how much high speed sprinting you can do, or you did during the game, possibly 3 days in some situations. So if you take 2 days in a row, like think about first you'll get the adaptation, you'll get some bit of the adaptation or a good bit of the adaptation, and you'll set yourself up for success that way. But you'll also feel excellent going into training 2 days later as well. So look at doing that as much as you can. Try, now this isn't, obviously everyone can't do this and you'll have commitments and stuff like that, but if you're getting very serious about your recovery days, I would avoid alcohol as much as possible. Because it's going to take a hit on your sleep and it's going to take a hit on your recovery itself. So I would avoid it as much as possible. Obviously, people don't want to be just sitting in at home and that as well. So I just think if you're getting very serious about it, avoid it. If it's in a general one, don't worry too much for it. Just don't be taking the mick altogether. But yeah, I think when you're starting your day, fit a lot of nice, enjoyable activities at the start of the day. And as the day goes on, kind of transition to more relaxing activities. So you'll sleep better at night, preparing for bed 2 hours before you go there, that you're actually a lot of relaxing things. You're not checking emails, you're not on Instagram, you're not on TikTok all the time. You're more focused towards maybe reading or meditating or breathing or something that's just a bit more relaxing, playing board games, something like that. Because then you will sleep better when you go to bed at night. Okay, screen time is one I haven't mentioned a lot, but I think you need to be wary of your screen time on days that you're recovering, because it does keep you locked in. To keep you locked in, it keeps you, it has to take your concentration, which is going to fatigue you, and you also have to be on high alert to be locked into something. You're not going to be locked into something and lazy. Okay, so that's why they work very good for grabbing your attention, like TikTok and Instagram, but also remember that you need to relax there as well. So I would avoid that as much as you can. But really, that's kind of the way it is I would structure it. So in a very basic sense, look at structuring your activities that you enjoy towards the start of the day. Keep your schedule, your sleep schedule the same. Keep your hydration the same. Keep your diet the same. Keep everything like that the same. But fit in more relaxing activities during that day. Okay, more activities that you enjoy and that will lift your mood, but that aren't too taxing. Okay, if you can, fit a nap in, but make sure it's around about 8 hours to 10 hours before you go to bed. I won't nap usually past 2 o'clock in the day. I go to bed most days at around about 10:30 or 11 o'clock. 11 o'clock, I suppose, more to 11:30, depending on if I'm training jiu-jitsu the next day, early or not, because I'm trying to make sure my routine is as structured as possible. But getting up at the same time every day is massive, and it's very, very beneficial. So if you can, try keep that on your recovery day as well. Avoid sleeping in too much, because that can throw off your sleep schedule. You'll stay up later that night, and the next day then you will be a bit more off, and then if it comes to Monday, then you're trying to get that back together, and Monday you're all fatigued. But guys, yeah, and girls, that's basically it. That's all I wanted to talk about today. Structuring it a small bit better, making sure that you don't have a load of stimulating activities during that day, and that you're more enjoying it. You're setting out and you're relaxing, sit on the beach, chill out for a while, do different things like that you'll enjoy. If you do that, you'll find that you'll recover a lot better physically, emotionally, cognitively, and spiritually. So we need to look at addressing all of those. Cognitive, if you're on your phone all the time, you're going to be tired. If you're really engaged in things, you're going to be tired mentally. Okay, so it's important to take that step back from it as well at times. And emotionally, as I said, talking to family and friends, talking to people that you trust is a great way of recharging those emotional batteries as best as you can. Physical, active recovery, mobility and movement, diet, sleep, hydration, stress management. You've heard them all before, but just keep on top of those. Look at maybe getting into cold water where possible, and look at getting into sauna possibly as well. Sauna is a very good one. I would move my sauna towards the evening, not too close to bed, but a couple of hours before bedtime is when I like the sauna best, even though I haven't been sauna out here that much, but it's a great time to do it. But anyway, that is everything from me today, guys. Thank you so much for listening in again. As I've been saying on the last couple of podcasts, I am taking on more clients over the winter, especially in the next couple of weeks. Once I'm full up, then I'm going to be full up. But basically what I focus on is active people who have long-term injuries. So let's say back pain that's been going on a long time, hip pain, you could have injured your knee before, ankle or shoulder, whatever it is. If it's been going on a long time, that's what I like to focus on. I also do consultations. So if you have a recent injury and you want a second opinion on that injury, then definitely get in contact and I will set up a consultation and we can go through it in a lot more detail, and I'll give you a plan to work on when you go home. So the easiest way if you don't know what's best for you, just send me a message on Instagram, send me an email at mobilitytutor@gmail.com, and we'll set up a discovery call. And with that discovery call, I can explain to you basically what you can do, give you a better understanding of what may be going on, and then I'll give you a couple of options of what I do myself and see if it's something you're interested in. If you're not interested in it, that's no problem at all. At least you'll have a better understanding going away of actually what to work on. So if it's something you're interested in, just send me a message. Also, guys, the best thing you can do for me for this podcast, especially, and give me a better idea of what you want to know, is to share it on your story on Instagram or share it with a friend. It goes a long way in promoting the podcast. It goes a long way in kind of getting it up the charts and getting it seen a small bit more. And Also, to add to that, if you could add a rating on Apple iTunes, or if you could subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, or iTunes. But that's basically it. So thanks a million. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone's happy. And let me know if you need help with anything. I will chat to you all again soon, guys. Have a good one.